Real, yeah, keep it real. Let's get real, yeah, keep it real. Keep it real, that's the deal. Let's get real, yeah, keep it real.
Welcome to another edition of the Let's Get Real podcast. We do this each and every week. Cameron Cadet, Alvin Sanders, Mike, little bits. Here, always fun as the weeks progress. Right now in the world, it doesn't seem like anything's changing except for that COVID is exploding. The rest of the world, COVID numbers are going down, if not totally eradicated. But of course, in America, in the state of Florida, recently we had 15,000 new cases in one day and almost 100 deaths in just the state alone, which is more than the country of South Korea, which don't do me the population thing because South Korea's population is like 10 times the population of the state of Florida. And they never total had the amount of cases Florida had in one day. So COVID's running rampant. So that's so fun. Before we get to our guest of the night, I do want to say hello to my cohorts. One Conrad Cadet, what's going on?
Not much, man. Just try to stay COVID free, man. Just another day.
Alvin Sanders, how you doing this week?
Man, I'm kind of depressed, man. I haven't been able to lewd. I haven't been able to protest. All my fires are out. It's crazy, man. I'm out of trouble for now.
Well, hopefully we stay out of trouble as the days come on. Our guest this week is a guy that talked about staying out of trouble years ago before Colin Kaepernick made it popular. Our guest tonight, Quentin Williams, Quentin Williams, currently now a Butler, Lapper & Williams law firm, but a guy that has been an FBI agent. He's been an NFL executive, literally in the franchise ran by Tom Coughlin when they went to the AFC Championship in the mid-90s. He was a part of that franchise, went to BC, played football at BC. He's been an executive in the NBA. He's a guy who wrote the handbook on not getting killed, whether you're a police officer or you're a civilian. Quentin Williams.
There's a handbook? There's a handbook.
He wrote a handbook, and it is a free handbook. He actually put it out there for people before Colin Kaepernick.
It's sad that you had to even write a handbook.
Well, it's sad he had to come up with it. So we're going to talk with Quentin Williams tonight. He's a guy that I've been close to for a few years now. He's a guy that is – it's funny that if you look him up, his background's amazing. So we're going to bring him on now, and we're going to talk with Quentin Williams of Butler, Lapper & Williams. And he's
That's a badass resume. I mean, damn.
Well, no, his resume is insane. It's not even fair.
That's a badass resume.
It's actually funny that he would even join us, to be honest with you. A guy of this man's statures are like 15 diplomas behind him.
There we go. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And we're now going live to Quentin Williams, a good friend of ours and a guy that's highly decorated, and a guy that, again, wrote the book on how to survive when you get in an altercation, whether you're a police officer or you're a civilian. And we see the Black Lives Matter movement is picking up steam, but where did that start? How do we fix things? How can we go about fixing things? And we brought Quentin on tonight to hopefully maybe give us some answers, give us some solutions, and get down to the bottom of what is going on in America from a bigger standpoint, as we all are on the ground. He's a guy that has been behind the scenes in the FBI. Quentin, how you doing, my friend? What's going on, Q?
I'm doing wonderfully. How you doing, Luby?
I am here, and I'm doing well in the state of Florida. You're very lucky to be in Carolina or New York, whether it's New York or Carolina. Both of your states are doing well when it comes to COVID. Our state sucks, so we are jealous of you these days, and we're trying to catch up to you. But during this time, COVID has been a big topic. The next big topic has been the Black Lives Matter movement. And you hear all the time, Q, with BLM. And I'm not doing that to be negative. I'm doing that to be, everyone's tried to synthesize it down to BLM to try and make it more tangible and something we can understand, we can either yell about or we can praise. When, like you've talked about, it's more than that. It's not about fighting. It's about saving lives. You hear the term all the time, systemic racism, because again, it makes it more bite-sized. When you hear that term, before we get even into it, when you hear the term, what does systemic racism mean to you?
It means that for certain people of color, Black people in particular, the system wasn't created for them, for us. So it was created for everybody but us. And so when we're looking for equity, when we're looking for fairness, we are not able to look to the system for that fairness. So when you talk about systemic, it's greater than individuals just feeling like they don't like you because of the color of your skin, for example. It's built into the fabric of in this case, the nation's heritage, the nation's system. And that's so we're trying to turn this ship on this 90-degree angle after 400 years of a system that has been created for people other than Black people, and people of color. It's not just Black people. It's Native Americans. It's those of Latino, Latino brothers and sisters, and so when you try to turn that ship like that, you're gonna make a lot of waves, you know, and that's what's happening right now as we try to pivot off of where we've been for 400 years.
It's funny the way you explained it. I'm not gonna lie to you. Was it was perfect. It's a very basic, simple way to understand what that term means. How many times have you had a conversation with someone that can't understand it or can't grasp the simple definition that you laid out? Because I can tell you, through conversations with friends and even family, the idea that that there's a system that's actively going against people of color is a fallacy. It's fake. And how do you go about having that conversation, or even trying to educate people that might be on the other end, that believe that this is not true? We're making it up. It's a made up theory that the system is against you.
And we all do have different journeys in life. So I have empathy for those who have not had my journey. You know, there are folks who, everybody's had challenges. So we can start from there. Everybody's had challenges, struggles. Everybody experiences pain. It's a human experience, some more than others. And so when I think about somebody whose journey hasn't been mine, my journey had that. It had racism. I was I felt racism from people, family members, you know, friends who are now friends but weren't at the time. They just didn't feel it because they didn't have the same journey. So that journey really dictates a lot for us, because if lived experiences, this is what one has lived. So if you're surrounded, if you're a white guy, you're surrounded by Black people, you have a lived experience right there that you see every day. Perhaps the differences between the way you are received and the way others are received. But if you don't live in that experience, well, then you're going to have to be exposed in other ways. And if you're not exposed, you might just not know. You might not have empathy because it's not part of what you've experienced. So my philosophy on this is to get people to the point where they open their heart. I want to get them to the point where they can experience empathy. And then once they experience empathy, then they can start to dig into
understand
the racism and stuff.
It's rare. It's rare now.
It's hard to get people to understand.
Okay,
It's rare. The E word is something that I feel like it's just not around anymore, and they're not even teaching it, and that comes from, I think, family. You know what I mean? I love that word, empathy. If you have any sort of empathy for any situation, it almost gives you a good balance, possible way of looking at something.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And great, then you have a good chance at getting through. But I think you're up against something you're up against a conversation that is lacking empathy and lacking that possibility to even listen. So how do you even
break that wall down?
I mean, we're talking about turning this boat a 90 degree,
Yeah.
It's got no rudder. It's got no steering column. It's got
It's
no
like a
rudder.
sailboat. It's like a sailboat that the wind takes it, and all
What do you
right,
do?
good luck.
What do we do? How do we do
Yeah,
it?
how
How
do
do
you
we invent
direct
the
it?
steering wheel? How do
So
we invent the steering wheel?
it's really this is so interesting because I've been knee deep in this for so long,
Yep.
and it's evolved. The way I approach this has evolved, and perhaps 10, 15 years ago, I would have just come right at people, and
Okay.
and I would have been like, yo, you got to understand, this is the way this is what I've seen, this is where I live. I know that doesn't work
Right.
for
Oh, it
many
wasn't
people.
effective.
No, it
It didn't
really
work?
It doesn't get you anywhere.
it doesn't work in that you don't gain genuine empathy that way.
Right.
Like people
Right.
might give in, like you're like, okay, all right,
They don't want you to harass them anymore. Yeah.
It's more of an appeasement.
Yeah.
But that's not the change we need. We need people to really feel empathy. So the way I do it, and I
Lost you.
so when I teach law enforcement, it's probably the most challenging audience you could be in front of when it comes to some of these issues, because the lived experiences for some are completely different than those whom they serve. But the way to do it is to open their heart. And like I said, they have had and still do have struggles. They have challenges. Their stories, some of them are so deep. Many of them, most of them, are so deep that it's unbelievable when I hear them give these stories. So what I do is I get them to tell their stories. I get them to the point where they're opening their heart about their own stories. There was a really one profound moment with that happened recently, where a law enforcement officer said in a classroom setting that he was really brought up with great opportunity, wealth, and just had a great life, silver spoon in his mouth. And about 2 days later, after everybody had given their stories, he felt compelled to say something that was really, really deep. He told about, a family member who tragically lost their life, and it affected him at a young age, from the time he grew up as a 16-year-old into his adulthood, and he never told anybody this. Because he wanted people to see him as the one who really had these great opportunities, and that's it. He wanted people to see the shell. But when it dug deep, he told that story, and now, because he got the response from us that was with empathy, now he could listen with his heart as we were talking about some of these issues.
Right.
So it's a way of there's a way of doing it so that you open people up. You got to open people up. If you don't do that, there's going to be defensiveness for many people. That's the way we do it.
I feel like, yeah, you're right. You hit the nail on the head, because I see people, especially on social media, when you come at them with a meme or you say, F this party or this system, then people are they're going to come at you the other way with the opposite. So I feel like exactly what you're saying is the right way to go about it, just to bring them in, try to find a middle ground, and then try to build from there and then move forward.
Well, and I felt Q was perfect, because it's funny, everything is so divisive. And I've known Q since before it hit a fever pitch of divisiveness. But even then, we talked about how, and look, my whole life, people talk about it's the most ever. First of all, again, slavery was a little bit more divisive. And there's always been me versus you. It just hasn't been so adversarial. But what we want to do here, literally on the Let's Get Real podcast, is, yes, I have my opinion. Everyone has their opinion, but we try to bring all the angles. And Alvin is very good about trying to play the middle. And that's why I like Q, because Q, first of all, was a former FBI agent, law enforcement as it gets, to attorney, civilian, parent, husband. Like, you have all these facets that cover you, that I was like, okay, I would always try to read Q. And I'm like, where the hell does Q come from? Like there was no box. I couldn't put you in a box. And I always try to do it because we're so trained to do it that it's like, all right, cool. He wrote the guidebook, and it wasn't just, okay, speak properly as a person. It was on both sides. Connotation is so a big part of life, and Black Lives Matter to me always just meant, you know, equality. Any movement to me, any movement, I don't associate actually that group. I just associate, okay, LGBTQIA, equality, Jews, equality, Catholics, equality. To me, it's trying to be women. Me too. To me, it wasn't just, oh, the women want to rule, they want equality. When you hear BLM, okay, as a guy who's very impartial, you're great about being objective. What does it mean to you now when you hear BLM?
Right. Well, before George Floyd, I would always say, I wish they would have just come here. Okay, come here, baby. This is my son. Go ahead, baby. Close this door, please. My son. Hey, it's the COVID days.
Everything's a COVID days.
My son is going to come in here in a moment too.
Yeah, I mean,
You didn't see. I did 4 karate chops out of the view of the screen.
that's my daughter. All right, give me 10 minutes. So BLM is really important. Before all this hit with George Floyd, I said, I wish they would have asked me, you know, like they would have asked me. But I wish they would have asked me, because I would have said, call it Black Lives Matter too.
Thank you.
That's what we said.
It would have what it would have done was it would have preempted everything. Like there would have been no problem with people saying all lives matter, blue lives matter. It would have been just give us this too, you know.
Yes.
Since George Floyd, you know, there was it was in abeyance that all lives matter, all that stuff for about 3 weeks to 4 weeks. But now it's starting to come back. People are starting to talk about all lives matter and that kind of thing. And I think it gives us an opportunity to discuss, you know, what this means. So yes, all lives matter, but written into the Constitution is 3/5 of a human being.
Yep.
So
forget about that. People really.
If we're gonna go with the Second Amendment, we have to go with everything. I mean, let's look at the whole Constitution and 3/5 of a human being. That's what they said about Black people.
Right.
So when Black people are saying Black Lives Matter too, they're saying we're not 3/5 of a human being.
We want to be one.
We are saying we are one whole human being.
5 of 5.
So that's what we want, is just to be treated like a human being. We want that for everybody. We want that for women. Women couldn't vote at one point. They weren't considered a full human being. They didn't have voting power. Latinos, look at the way they've been treated and continue to be treated. Look at Native Americans. Look at what happened to them. We took their land. So this is about every person who is a human being being treated like a human being. People with you know, who have special needs, you know, they were considered less than a human being for much of our existence as human beings. And so we need to treat everybody like a human being. There's a great 11 minutes and something seconds of video. If you look up the AT&T CEO and just type in BLM AT&T CEO, and his video will pop up. It's 11 minutes long. It's the best explanation when it comes to BLM that I've ever heard. And he basically says that when we say Black Lives Matter, we're not excluding any other lives. Right. It's like when you say, I'm for trying to solve the issues with breast cancer, you're not saying I don't care about colon cancer.
You're just saying cancer.
You're just saying these people matter. So let's ensure that we treat everybody like a human being.
Yeah, and you talked about empathy, and you were talking about how BLM just missed that little TOO. You know what I mean?
Right.
Right. And again, I don't want to say a normal, but a pragmatic person says, yeah, they're not saying that only Black Lives Matter. That would be preposterous for anyone to want credit and really to be looked at as we need to listen if they're saying only Black Lives Matter. It's the dumbest answer I've ever heard as far as all lives matter. There's no way. It's just another reason not to listen and to kind of turn a blind eye. I've got friends that are close to me, and they've been close to me and close to my family. And when you start to talk about some of these things with them, you hear it, that they don't even want to hear
There's a wall.
that there could be a possible mismeaning or a misunderstanding of what is trying to be said. You know what I mean? It's this, I don't want to say resistance to change, but you know what? I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a video about the Golden Girls and Don Cheadle. Have you seen it going around?
I saw that one. Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I gotta see
All
that.
right.
It's a great clip.
My wife loves it. Okay, she loves the Golden Girls, but it's a video where Don Cheadle they're hosting some kind of gala, and Rose, or one of the girls, hangs a Confederate flag up. Okay, and so Don Cheadle comes in and he's like, "Hey, what are you doing? You know, this flag represents something horrible to me. You need to take it down." And for her, she was saying, "Well, no, this is Grandpappy, whatever the guy's name was, his favorite flag. He brought it everywhere." No real meaning, no real understanding of what it means or the connotation or what that flag represents. You know what I mean? And so they kind of go back and forth, you know, kind of biting at each other. And then it kind of came down to the point where she had to really see all of her friends that thought the way that flag makes them think. Okay. She had to all of a sudden accept this fact that, oh my God, my whole family's been racist this whole time. Okay. And maybe that's not the way she thinks. Maybe that's not the way that she feels today, but it's like all of a sudden I've got to be an accepting person, and then I've got to be open-minded and examine myself and examine my family and my thoughts. And I think that's a lot for a human being to do in a conversation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's hard to go ahead.
When you talk about all lives matter, and folks are saying, you know, all lives matter, so that's what this should be about. And my response is always, but for many people saying that, your life was never in question.
Right.
Honestly,
it always matters. So you don't have to say it because it's written into the Constitution.
Exactly.
Your life matters. Now, there are some people who aren't in that situation. Women, their lives always didn't matter, you know? So I get that. But for the white males, non-Jews, their lives mattered for much of our existence. There were times when Irish and Italians didn't matter as much.
Didn't matter either. Yeah, that's true.
So I'm Jewish. My mother's Jewish, so I understand the whole spectrum of it. But for Black people, for nobody other than Black people, was it written into the Constitution. 3/5 of a human being. So that's the whole purpose for BLM. It's just understanding that, you know, this is a special circumstance, and so we need to understand how things are received. How are we receiving things? So what people say might have a certain intention behind it, but there might be a completely different way it's being received.
Right.
So that's a very important piece that we have to always consider.
Okay, Quentin, just to piggyback off what you just said, another thing is kind of like what you were just saying is the defund the police, how it can be received differently from what it actually means. So can you actually touch on that a little bit for us, just to explain what defund the police actually means?
That's another PR mistake again.
Oh no, the messaging.
The messaging is just,
it just makes it seem like we're trying to get rid of police altogether.
Let's take all the money away. Let's take all the money. Let's give them slingshots. We don't want them to have guns no more. Let's give them slingshots.
Billy Club, let's go.
The Billy Clubs.
That's it.
Yeah, I don't know why that word continues to be used, because it's very misleading. Now there is a way with a small number of police agencies, people are talking about completely doing away with them and having for example, the state or the county patrol those areas. Usually those are in rural areas where you might have a 6-person police agency. And they're like, yo,
Really small
let's
towns.
just they don't get training. We select buffoons. Let's just get rid of this. There's too much liability. The county will patrol it or the state will patrol it. In Connecticut, in the state of Connecticut, the Connecticut State Police, they patrol like 80 different municipalities because they don't have police departments in those 80 municipalities. So the CSP, Connecticut State Police, is best equipped to do that. And the same thing in Charleston. We work in both these places. Charleston, South Carolina, the county patrols these rural areas. Yes, baby. All right.
Bella's not letting me play a different Roblox game.
Okay, well, go ahead. I'm on the radio. Okay. Okay.
That's what it
You can
is.
close that door. Hey,
Daddy
it's
never
COVID.
stops.
It's
Yeah.
COVID.
The kids are home. They're bored. They want us.
They want to be on the podcast too.
That's it. That's it.
We'll have to get them on.
That's what it was.
So there are many different definitions of defunding. One definition is what I just said: take all the money away, get a county or state to patrol, because really it's an ineffective small police agency. So it's better that we get rid of it. But there are two other ways that it's used that are. I just wouldn't use defund as a word. So one of them is to reallocate money externally. Okay, and that's what a lot of people are talking about doing, giving it to mental health professionals, social services groups, and have them then respond to these calls that police are getting that aren't really criminal calls.
Not violent crimes. They're like minor infractions.
Okay.
And
It's mental health. It's not a crime.
Somebody's walking around naked downtown. You know, just has a mental health issue, not dangerous, just walking around naked, you know, just hallucinating. And so what do you do there? Police respond to that, and you know, sometimes it escalates the situation. Because you're in uniform, that person get whatever. So that's one thing. The second one, which is I'm a proponent of this last one, is reallocating money internally. So you don't take money away from the police agency. You keep that money in the police agency, but you hire those experts to come into the police agency to work with the police agency hand in hand. But they respond to those calls. So you have mental health professionals, you have social services people.
I like that.
All these people who are great. And the reason why this works for me is because many, if not most, police agencies are down in numbers. You know, 5, 10, 15%. They're never going to come back. They're never getting the numbers back because people just aren't applying the way they used to. But even if they do apply, they're not the right ones. Like you're on a chase to get the wrong people in. You're just hiring the wrong people. Look at the liability that brings. So instead of chasing after that, we're at this point where we can have a paradigm shift. We're at this point where you can shift the way law enforcement does its business. Keep your budget, which is what the chiefs want. The chiefs don't want it going externally because they'll never get the money back. So keep the budget, but hire these experts instead of trying to chase after law enforcement officers, sworn officers. Hire mental health professionals. Hire rape crisis people. Hire, you know, mental whatever, you know,
counselors,
social services. Whatever.
It's restructuring.
It's restructuring. It's a reallocation.
Not defunding.
No.
Reallocation. It's reallocation, but reallocation internally is what I'm a proponent of, because that way everybody wins. The chiefs, they will be so upset if they lose that 15% or whatever, because they'll never get it back. So they're already underfunded. So let them keep the money.
Let's get real podcast.
That makes sense.
Couple things here. Current Cadet Alvin Sanders. We're joined by Quentin Williams of Butler, Lapper, Williams, former FBI agent, former NFL executive. Now he speaks out as also a charitable cause. Wrote the book on how to make it home alive. That was the whole goal of the Survivor's Guide, how to not get killed, was both police officers and civilians. It sounds funny, but it sounds crazy, but that's literally what he made the title, to let people know, look, you can make it home. And before we let you go, Q, I wanted to, because you got into it a little bit when it comes to the police, but again, we started this whole thing off by talking to you about systemic racism. And again, that's just something people throw out there. We've talked to you before about it on other shows. What are some of the things you think about outside of empathy, just starting the conversation, but actually just the system itself is broken? Even if, like Alvin talks about it all the time, don't just assume you're going to get a raw deal, because you don't know. Go out there, work hard, and hopefully things will work out. But sometimes, like you said, the system itself is just already set up against you. Mm-hmm. What are some of the things outside of the police that can actually go to the core of the system to give people of color, all nationalities, a better shot from the beginning at equality?
Yeah, so, we talk about the diversity, inclusion, we talk about those things, and they're very important. Diversity, inclusion, I now use the word belonging instead of inclusion, because it's just, it expresses exactly what people want to feel. They want to feel like they belong, because we've been including people, but they've still been outsiders, just sitting at the table, not feeling comfortable. So belonging, so it's diversity, belonging, and equity is really important. Equity meaning systemic fairness. So the system is fair. Now, that means that you're going to get a fair shot in the system. It doesn't mean that the outcomes are going to be that everybody ends up in the same place. But the system is going to be fair to you. And if that's the case, people will be able to live with that. Mm-hmm. Because, some people are born wealthy, some people are born poor. But is the system unfair to those who are perhaps vulnerable?
Not wealthy.
Yeah. And so we want to look at how can we get everybody on board to see that a fair system helps everybody. Mm-hmm. It doesn't just help those who are in those vulnerable positions. It actually helps everybody because it grows the pie. Yep. I think about the people in my neighborhood who are probably the most talented people I've ever met in my life and are in prison. And these people are incredible, like brilliant people, but they never really had a shot. Like it was stacked against them. So that talent has been wasted in our society. It will never fulfill its potential. Mm-hmm. And because of that, we all lose. Right. Because I don't know, maybe that person has a cure for COVID.
They can invent something.
Yeah, and so we lose. Everybody loses. The pie stays the same size. For those who have the opportunities in life, they have to see that by giving everybody some kind of opportunity, the pie grows. Their slice might be thinner in that larger pie, but it's going to be bigger than it would have been with the smaller pie. Mm-hmm. That's really important. And unfortunately, many don't see it that way. Mm.
So along that same line, you have probably amounted 5 different dreams of 5 different people. Okay. I know friends that have wanted to be FBI agents. I have friends that wanted to work in the NFL. They have wanted to work in the NCAA, and I'm like, you've done all of them. All right. I have a question for you, and I'm a father, and I want to pass things down to my son, more knowledge than I have, right, than I've been able to amass in my lifetime. So what would you say to someone who thinks the system is rigged against them, and they still have those dreams, and they still have the motivation to kind of move forward? What would you say to them to kind of get them to realize that, yeah, it is against you, the system is set up against you? Or do you even say that? Do you even instill that belief in them that the system is geared against them and that there are limitations?
Good question.
I say that the system has, if you focus, the system can work for you. And it depends on what you're focusing on. So if I'm an energy out, energy in kind of guy. So I believe if I put that out there, that's what I'm gonna get.
I like
So
that.
I know that the system is skewed in some ways, but I also know that the relationships that we build are going to determine our destiny. And like my friends who are in prison, they saw that they should build these relationships with gangbangers, whatever, and that's what they saw. That's what they were surrounded by. That's what they saw. They didn't have somebody who said, "No, you're building a relationship with me, and I'm going to lead you." That one person can make such a difference. And for me, it was my mother initially who made that difference. Then it became my grandparents. Then it became people they introduced me to. And I learned through all these relationships that, yeah, I'm poor as can be. On welfare the first 17 years of my life. Wow. But with all that, and couldn't read too, on top of that, and had no father. So I was 50%, I was going to prison. Like,
right.
The statistics were like, yo, this dude is
You
going to
were
end up.
It's not looking good.
It's you.
It's not looking good, man.
It's 50-50. So knowing, I could have said, there's only one thing for me to do what my friends are doing. But because I had these people who were not having it, they just were not having it. And maybe they saw something in me because my mother raised me in a certain way and I was a good kid. I didn't have all the talent in the world, but I was a good kid. They made sure that they led me in the right direction. And so that was what changed me, is these relationships. It was all about relationships for me. They're the ones who did it all. Every job I had was based in a relationship. I didn't apply to any job other than the FBI. I didn't apply to any of those jobs. People recruited me because they were through friends or whatever. So I say, the world is yours. It's not that you won't go through challenges. And I hate when people say, well, I did it, Clarence Thomas. I did it, so lift yourself up by your bootstraps. No.
Easier said than done.
That's not the answer. Because just because I did it doesn't mean that everybody has that same opportunity.
Right.
Everybody has an opportunity to build relationships. But I don't say because of my story, my one story, that the world is fair. No, that doesn't make it's because I just latched on to certain people and they latched on to me. And because of that, I was able to work hard and accomplish. But it was all based in relationships, and those relationships are there for everybody. Whether it's one relationship or 50, there is one that can make the difference.
Trying to find it.
So
awesome.
It's
awesome.
just keeping that focus on who am I going to hang out with. I tell kids all the time, you are who you hang out with. So if you hang out with good people, good things can happen for you. But if you hang out with bad people, bad things will happen for you. Like it's 100%. You're gonna be in bad territory. And that's how I live my life. And I'm just, I'm blessed, man. I'm blessed. I've had blessings of all kinds. I've had great people around me, and that's determined my destiny.
That's great.
All right. It takes a village. I got it. All right. Hell yeah.
I know people can find you on Twitter and Instagram at MQBLW, Facebook, M. Quentin Williams. But I also know you do great things with charity, talking about showing people that you're not alone. And that's, I think, what it comes down to is people a lot of the time find that path because that's all they think is around them, when there's hopefully in communities other ways to find the right path. I know you do a lot of great charitable things. I know you have your own foundation. What are some of the things you're working on, you're doing, and please promote it, because I know that you're out there trying to help people.
Yeah, dedication to community, community.org. That's our not-for-profit. It's a 501c3, and we are mission to save lives through our initiatives that deal with upward economic mobility and self-empowerment and public safety. The two initiatives. And the public safety one is where we concentrate a lot of our time on because of these conditions, law enforcement, community relations. We teach law enforcement how to serve better, not how to police better. And that's made a big difference in our world. And we've been told it's made a big difference because we teach everybody from those who are walking street, street cops who are walking the beat, to chiefs and sheriffs. And those chiefs and sheriffs are making policy, and sometimes they're enacting policy based on what we're teaching them. So that's affecting masses of people. That's really important. I find, I've been arrested, because I fit descriptions when I was an FBI agent. I've had these instances, and it's important for the communities that are served by these law enforcement officers to know how to respond to whatever comes their way, right, and then what to do afterwards. If they've been treated unprofessionally, to make sure they report it, not to let it go. Right. And to do that means a big difference to the people who come after, because if somebody else has to deal with that same kind of an issue with the same law enforcement officer, at least there's a pattern that's established because you reported it. So we teach these things, and most of all, with law enforcement officers, we teach them how to serve better.
Nice.
Cool. All right.
Quentin Williams Q, it has been an honor as always, a privilege. Love you, man. Appreciate you finding time for us and all the endeavors we do and that you do. Thank you for all you do. Be safe out there, my friend, please. And I think we're going to be talking to you again, just maybe to get stories. I didn't realize, I've talked to you for like 5 years, and or 6 years. I didn't realize your background because of, all that you've become. Didn't realize what you went through. So maybe we'll just have to tell some stories just to show people, wow, see, he was the quote unquote statistic, and you would never know the way your life turned out.
I want to tune into your podcast.
That's right. Well, you have to come on. You have to come on to it. We're putting it together right now, so you have to come on.
All right, let us know when it's ready, so we check it out.
It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure, gentlemen.
Nice conversation. Thank you very much.
If you ever need me on again, please do. And my kids, of course, they'll love to be on again too.
We'll have like the kids joining.
Yes,
love you, man. Right. Be safe. Thanks a lot again.
Thanks a lot for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Be well.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Damn, son, I need to get my resume up.
I know, right? I didn't even get my grades up.
Well, the craziest thing to me is I didn't realize that was his background. Like he went to BC, played football at BC when BC was good, like in the 90s, like I think around the Flutie era, Boston College, and after Flutie. And then
Flutie was like in the 80s though.
Well, Flutie was the 80s, but I think the early 90s is when I think he was at BC, and BC was pretty good, the Big East.
Yeah, they were decent.
And he went to BC, and then he goes, and I think he meandered around the NFL, and then gets his law degree, becomes an attorney. Oh, I'm sorry, before that, goes to the FBI, goes to the FBI. Sorry, I don't want to shortchange him. He was at BC, then goes to the FBI, then gets his jurisprudence and becomes an attorney, and has done a lot with that. And he's not there just trying, he's a part of a big firm that's in Manhattan and in Charlotte, North Carolina, but he goes around and he is trying to make a difference. And the way that I want to make a difference, he's actually put his action and words combined. And it's what we're trying to do here. And it's interesting. I'm glad Alvin asked that question because it got something out of him. I've known him for like 6 to 7 years, and I did not realize that that's his background. Like, first of all, yes, even he who made it out, as they say, will admit the system is rigged. Right. But just because it's rigged doesn't mean it has to ruin you.
Stop trying. Yeah,
this is my point. This is my point.
It doesnn't mean we shouldn't try to change the system. We still should.
No, right.
But everyone can make it if you find the right relationships. And he's right. He always talk about connections. I like that word better because when I hear connections, it makes me feel like work. When I hear relationships, it's like, oh, I have plenty of relationships.
That means like you're giving and taking.
It's more relatable. It's more relatable. It's, connection. You hear, I got to hook up. It's a connect that works.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Right. And it doesn't have to be that. I mean, many of the jobs I've gotten are just from friends. Not a connect. It's just hey, by the way, this is what's happening over here.
And just talking and you work something out.
But for somebody that has, that's 5 different dreams.
Yeah.
Of someone.
He's also with an MBA executive too, but we don't really talk
about
it.
Number 6. Add a number 6 there.
Yeah. All right. So, and that's why, and that's like, so whenever we talk about like Candace Owens and those kind of people where they talk a lot about, Black people need to wake up and they need to do things. They need to, pull themselves up by the bootstraps and all. A part of me is like, yes,
You're not
I
wrong
agree.
entirely.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong at all.
Some people think like
The
that.
argument,
It is
and
feasible.
so it's like it's two different arguments, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That argument is not an argument that we're having with white culture or white America. Okay,
Yeah.
you don't have that argument with them. You have that
Exactly.
argument with
Black people.
Black America.
Internally.
And
Yeah.
right, that's our internal. That's our
Exactly.
internal to say, you know what, you're right. The system is rigged against you, but I'm going to show you how to break the system. I'm going to show you how to realize it's there and understand the matrix code, right?
Exactly.
And get out.
Exactly.
Okay. And that's the thing I think that you're up against a lot when you talk about like, oh, it's rigged against me. You know, the man's got me down. This and this and that. No, it's not that. It's this.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You're
It
holding
is
yourself back.
possible.
You got to know
it's
what you're going
possible.
against.
It's
You got to
possible.
know what you're going
It's
against. You know
possible.
how to adapt.
You don't got to be an NBA player, NFL player. There are other ways to get out. And that's why I was curious what he was, how the hell did he do it? Like, it's crazy. That's what we need to do. We need to come up with how to make it out. That's that's our book.
Well, and that's the thing. What people do, I know there's podcasts out there that are centered around business and how people got to where they were. And I think that's interesting. And we talked about it with Kim Ray, Dr. Kim Ray. We talked about it with her last week.
Say your name right, because she'll come on in.
I know she'll bother me. But we talked, and I think that's incumbent upon us with every conversation. I'm always curious about, you know, because people ask me, how did I get where I am, and all the time. But people who we feel are important enough to be on with us, how did you get here? And everyone has a different story. And I think it's a little bit of both. And the thing when it comes to white people, and I say that because I'm white, but like, it still isn't fair to say, like, when people are, what is white privilege? I had it tough. Yes, you might have had it tough. Look, you know, I grew up literally exactly where you guys grew up. Okay. So it's not like I had a silver spoon. I didn't. But I'm not going to lie. We made jokes of it, but I'm aware of the looks you got compared to, I didn't get the same looks. No one followed me around a friggin' store. And I was probably more of a jerk off than any of you, to be brutally honest. So they should have been. You were my decoys, and I'm making a move in the background. So what I'm saying is, which never happened. I'm just saying, like,
Negro.
Yeah, exactly. Like, white people, yeah, exactly. It is a thing, and it's not fair for white people to say, well, you know, but it also doesn't mean that you can't make it out, and it's impossible.
But back to what Quentin was saying, it becomes based on a life lived. Like, you didn't have that life. You're not going to be able to lean on someone else's experiences, not ever knowing it ever happened. You know what I mean? And it's just, it's hard. It's going to be difficult. It is. It's a difficult conversation, a difficult thing for people to realize. So
I like, and we've talked about it, and this is what I want to. Whenever we talk with anyone, I like that too. It's, okay, how do you do it? Because everyone's like, well, you do this, you do that, you do this, you do that. You asked it, and he was like, try and get them empathetic.
To try and get them empathetic.
It's like, it's not easy.
100%. 100%.
Like,
You almost have to teach them.
Yeah.
You know what it is? You almost have to teach them empathy in the same conversation that you want them to experience it.
And understand what
And
the
way that he was talking about his stories, or that he would have people say their stories, right? Then all of a sudden, hearing those stories, now all of a sudden you have almost automatic empathy.
Yeah, everybody opens up and they're engaged.
Yeah. So that's awesome. That's awesome. That's a tactic. That's awesome.
It's a tactic. One, it's what it's you. We're always, that's what we do. People have always made fun of me for, you know, Mike or Louie, you're trying to change the world, and it's not.
Stop listening to Defo, man.
Well, yeah, but honestly,
tell Defo
he's too bitter. Here's the deal: you can change it with one conversation at a time. Like, and I feel, and that's why we started this, was because we all came from different backgrounds, but we all would, and we argued a lot about dumbass things. But you can find where you can all come together. And that's the thing.
Find the common ground.
Is, okay, find the common ground
and build from there.
And I think that's what empathy is okay, get them to see where you're coming from. They're not going to, okay, ask them, where are you coming from? And I'll meet you, you know, like, and it's something people don't do enough, but it's something I hope here on the Let's Get Real podcast we could do. And we're going to each and every week. And as you notice, it's heavier things, but we're trying to bring it down so you don't have to change the channel.
But it's
Because
education
we're all
information.
tired.
Information
we're
that we all need.
frustrated. Yes. And it's just, I don't want to come home to hear what I saw on Twitter all day, to hear what I saw on Facebook all day. Fine, you won't. But it doesn't mean that we can't enlighten you and have some fun.
Right.
So hopefully we did that. And if we didn't, hopefully you
think
stuck
we
around
did.
anyways.
You did too bad because I'm in like I give a damn.
I learned something. I always learn
Yeah,
something.
my
I always
ass.
learn
Conversation.
Yeah,
One of the best guests we ever had, honestly.
I always learn
Yeah,
something from you guys because and hopefully, you know, we can continue to do this and just have fun. Before we do get out of here, and again, thank you to M. Quentin Williams, a survival guide, how not to get killed. That's literally the title. I read the thing and I still had to look at the title 4 times today because I'm like, now Q is this eloquent dude. He was doing it on purpose to wake you up, to make you go, oh, geez, really? And then it's actually not sensationalized. It's the opposite. It's very bite-sized, simple to understand things so that we can understand where both law enforcement and people are coming from. But it's more than that. It's getting out there and just trying to understand where someone else is coming from. And some of the shows in the future, you're going to wonder where we're coming from by delving into other areas that most people don't. But again, everyone, they always talk about history is told by the victor. Okay, yes, the winner is the good guy, the loser is the bad guy. Well, from the loser standpoint, they were the good guy and the winner was the bad guy. So every person, wherever they come from, as crazy as it might seem to you, it started somewhere, okay? It started somewhere, and to them, they're the good guy. So I'm hoping we can try and understand where the people are coming from. They can understand us. The reason you can understand us and hear us is because of Conrad Cadet and Cadet Digital. They can service all your digital needs, meaning they can build your website. If you have a website and it's not performing well, they can help you there. They can.
We're gonna
do
need to
SEO.
get you a better segue because
I know, right?
it just sounds
Why?
like
That was great.
Cadet's servicing.
I know.
Dude, you service.
He's servicing. It's not sexual. I don't think
Bro,
it's
I don't-
sexual.
I don't
If
service
you're
you.
doing some sexual shit,
Servicing
don't let me
everybody.
know.
Who wants some?
I'm not involved on it. You know, that's on him. That's what he does in his free time. He can help you in your business needs when it comes to digital. Reputation management, SEO, all of that. Conrad Cadet and Cadet Digital can help you out.
Can I talk? Can I talk?
We're on every platform
Can I?
because of Conrad Cadet. Go right ahead, sir. Let them know how you can help them out.
But honestly, if you need any web design services, I'm actually working on some video editing options as well, some software and support. So you can go ahead and send me an email at info@cadetdigital.com and we'll take it from there and get you set up.
Alvin, I know you have other things that definitely help people with lifestyle and healthy living and healthy mindsets and just living your best life. How can people get in touch with you in that regard, or just say what's up?
I'm at Coach A-Train on Instagram and Coach_A-Train on Twitter. I don't really use Twitter that much though.
I use Twitter.
Keep
I'll
it
be
IG. Keep it IG.
I stay on Twitter all the time.
You can see me dance on TikTok though. You can see me.
Did you really do it?
I'm doing it. Oh yeah, you can see me Chris Brown
Well,
on
don't
there.
even get into the TikTok.
Oh,
It's a
yeah.
whole another thing now.
Well, use it as long as you can until they cut it down.
Yeah, with the
They
data.
ain't cutting nothing down.
Well,
It's a free country.
we'll see.
Right.
Yeah, well, then I'm really making it. Well, whatever. We'll talk about TikTok another time. You can hit me up on Twitter. I am very active on Twitter. I love ranting and raving on Twitter. It's built for me. At LubyWins, WINZ, and at LubyWins on Instagram. Also, Facebook.com/Mike Lubitz. For Conrad Cadet, for Alvin Sanders. Thank you again, Quentin Williams of Butler, Lapper, and Williams. I am Mike Lubitz. We'll see you next time right here on the Let's Get Real podcast.
Let's get real, yeah. Keep it real. Let's get real, yeah. Keep it real. Let's get real, yeah. Keep it real. Keep it real. That's the deal. Let's get real, yeah. Keep it real. Let's get real, yeah. Keep it real. Let's get real, yeah. Keep it real. Keep it real.